Hello and welcome to Beyond the Vibe podcast, the show that cuts deep into the world of music.
My name is Aaron Day, I'm lead guitarist in the UK band These Wicked Rivers, and I'm here with the one, the only, Mr. Ryan Vasey, music videographer and photographer extraordinaire. Ryan, how are we doing?
Oh, we're doing okay, aren't we?
Everything's changed a little bit this week, isn't it? We've had to go a bit more bare bones, but we're getting through. And thankfully, the main construct of our show this week is with the wonderful Josie O'Toole, who we'll reveal all later.
Yes, it's gone pretty quickly downhill, hasn't it?
Pretty organic. Basically, most of the show is edited on, and most of my band demos and everything is on my MacBook that has decided to die and has left us and now moved on to the next world. So we're currently recording this sat on Ryan's floor in complete darkness by campfire and candlelight, so this is the true organic Beyond the Vibe feeling.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like we've gone down a few tiers.
Don't be like that. This is still quality broadcasting. It doesn't matter. It's all about the element of how it comes across. And I'm sure you'll agree, listeners, that this is still pure quality broadcasting.
Yeah, we soldier on.
We soldier on.
No matter what happens. So, what have you been listening to this week?
What have I been listening to? So I've been listening to Temple still. I've been listening to a bit of that. I've been listening to... So on Spotify, you get this thing called Daily Mix, right? You're not a Spotify guy, are you?
Well, I mean, I've got it, but I don't dive into it too much.
So Spotify gives you this thing which is a daily mix. You get 5 different ones, and they try and mix different genres so that you can listen to it, and it's a rotation of what you've been listening to. And I quite like that because I think it helps dive into different moods. So I've actually been listening to a lot of Gary Clark Jr., particularly his first album, Black and Blue.
Yes, his first album's very different to the rest of it.
Yeah, it's good because I suppose he evolves and he reaches the point where he's just won a Grammy for this land, So it was cool to go back to that evolution. So it was nice. So because I've been listening to a lot of that, it's kind of come into my daily mix, and that's mixed with Greta Van Fleet, Maiden, Marcus King, Cadillac Free. So I've got a nice sort of heavy rotation of southern funk soul magic, which is what I'm calling it. What have you been listening to?
Oh, I've had a look back at that AC/DC album that's just come out. Oh God, what's it called again? Power Up. Yeah. I mean, it's grown on me a little bit. I feel that the 2 singles are definitely the strongest points. But I mean, I read somewhere in an article that it was like a lot of the material from this new album's been taken from other kind of previous albums where it probably didn't make the grade or something.
Right, do you get that vibe from listening to it?
Yeah, I think particularly Realise, I feel like that was something that was on an album about 20 odd years ago that didn't quite get there. And I don't mean that in a bad way, because I think that's probably the best one on the album. I think the older material shines more than stuff that they've perhaps made from scratch. That's the impression I get anyway. Well,
I get the feeling as well that there's like you say, they've probably come to the studio with a collection of songs, and then, like you say, they've then had to come up with songs on the spot. And obviously at this point in their careers, I imagine we were chatting about this with bands like Airborne, it's difficult when you've got a sort of rock formula to then come up with songs on the spot that have that amount of originality.
Yeah, I think this far in it's going to be quite difficult, but I think it's still worth listening to. There was some good things on there, but there's a lot of forgettable songs for me. The one in particular for me, lyrically, it was like Witch's Curse or Witch's Spell. I think Witch's Spell, and there's a line where he goes, it was like I've got the witch's spell, I've got a tale to tell. I mean, come on.
He said to Brian, we want you to go a bit more wizardy on this, a bit more Robert Plant, dive into sort of dragons and that. So he was like, I got the spell, the witch's spell. Yeah. This is his highest level of sort of Robert Plant-esque storytelling.
Yeah, he just, that ventured into that particular song ventured into the parody territory of the I've got a tale to tell. I mean, come on.
I got the moves. I just always go to that because he's not got the moves. He's probably got issues with his bones at this point, so the moves have probably stopped for Mr. Johnson, But that seems to be my go-to thing.
Yeah, you slip into that Brian Johnson pretty easily.
It happens all the time. I'll be in the bath and I'll just suddenly go, I got the moves! And there's water splashing out. And also, so in our main feature this week, because we've decided that we wanted to look, with Josie kind of in mind and scheduled in for the interview, you know, we were looking at sort of what topic we could work around Josie. And I think we immediately came to this idea because of, obviously, the Hot Damn, Josie's new band, we should definitely check out if you're not done already, is an amalgamation of kind of 4 members from different bands. You know, so you've got Aaron Buchanan, the Cool Classics, where Laurie comes from. We've obviously got Tequila Mockingbird, the Amorettes, and New Device. And it's something where it's, when that kind of thing, it's some people would say it's a supergroup. So the question we wanted to ask is, do rock supergroups work? Do rock supergroups work, Ryan?
I was so tempted to just go no.
That is now to the interview with Josie. Thank you very much.
Well, I think I've always found for me that supergroups never last. That for me is the key, because I don't, like, when I think about it, I don't immediately think of a supergroup that's gone more than 2 albums.
Yeah, I mean, my ultimate supergroup, and just quickly to point out, when we did, and you'll hear it in the interview, Josie kind of doesn't refer to the band as a supergroup, you know, and I think just because of the fact that the 4 of them feel like it's them starting afresh, and I think historically, when you look back, maybe in terms of the vintage rock and roll, you know, the classic rock side of things, I think a supergroup was advertised as a supergroup, you know, it was almost like a different genre. I mean, my ultimate level of that is Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young's album Deja Vu, which is one of my favourite albums of all time. You've got obviously some really difficult characters in there. So, like you're saying, that they only did one album. They did a song called Ohio, which was a rebellion against protesters getting killed, against sort of war and all the sort of acts of the presidency at that time. But they only did one album, and it's amazing. But then I think Neil Young just buggered off on one tour, and they didn't see him for sort of 5 years, and they just did it as Crosby, Stills and Nash, you know. So like you say, it kind of hasn't got the longevity because they're kind of all coming at it from different things. And I remember you said there was a thing where it's almost like, if you're an artist going in there, would you use your best material?
Yeah, this is it, you know. I mean, if I was Neil Young, would I want to go in and give, like, I don't know, let's say Old Man or, you know, Heart of Gold? Would you want to say, here you go, boys, here's my best material?
Well, it's interesting because the album's got some amazing songs on it, and it'd be interesting to see how they came together. Was it literally just the band kind of all giving a little bit of themselves and that created a thing, or was it some of the members giving sort of full accounts of songs that they could have saved for their solo careers, you know? Because Neil had probably the most successful solo career out of all of them, so maybe he was just quite selfish when it came to the supergroup side.
Yeah, I think he was saving a lot away there, and that's why he was like, after this album, I'm done, son. I'm gone.
Saying that though, I actually think the album's better than any of his solo material, but that's obviously my opinion. Any situations where it's not worked?
For me, maybe a controversial one, but I would say that Hollywood Vampires.
I'd agree with that.
Yeah, I mean, they're still current, but I just, there's not a song for me that really stands out on their albums, and I think that they've got 2 out, haven't they?
Yeah, I think they're all covers. Yeah, I think they have billed themselves as this sort of Las Vegas cover band, you know, of alternatives, and it as soon as it started, it wandered into parody for me. You know, I think they invite Brian Johnson in to do another Brick in a Wall, you know, which is I'm pretty sure it's another Brick in a Wall, which is something you'd never teachers leave their kids alone. Is it that? Oh,
I desperately want to hear that if that is the case.
If not, I will do a recording of it so we can pretend to experience it. But yeah, it does wander into parody, you know, and it's a shame because I think Johnny Depp's got quite a lot of musical etiquette to him, so maybe this was the wrong platform for him to express that.
Yeah, I mean, they did that cover of Heroes with Johnny as vocalist, and I thought that was alright, but I feel on the whole there's a lot of like I can't remember anything else they've done since then.
Yeah, I don't think they're a band that are going to be particularly relevant, you know, and same with Chicken Foot.
Yes. I mean, a while until we asked this question of, are supergroups successful? I completely forgot they existed at one point. They came to my mind, and I was like, oh yeah, they were a thing.
Compliment for Chicken Foot there.
Yeah, no, sorry about that, guys. But
They do seem to come in terms of modern supergroups, and this is probably where the Hot Damn will differ. Is that a lot of modern supergroups will come together and they'll tend to cover songs. You know, Chicken Foot did a cover of Highway Star. You know, and I think they find it a struggle to find their own identity, really.
Yeah, I think the Hot Damn are very different. They're at a different point in their careers as well. You know, they're wanting to go off and make something of their own. Like, they're definitely their own thing from the get-go. Whereas, you know, these other kind of bands that have come together, they're already extraordinarily successful, and I think they're quite happy to just sit there and do covers and have a bit of a laugh. Like, it feels way more casual. No,
I agree. It's almost like a more successful version of a pub band. You know, loads of mates coming together, and I think the Hot Damn's the complete opposite of that. So with that in mind, let's go to our interview when we spoke to Josie earlier in the week.
So we're here with Josie O'Toole, drummer with the recently announced the Hot Damn, coming
Good
together.
evening.
Coming together with different musicians. Some played together, some coming together for the first time. In many ways, we're kind of discussing it off air. This was the reason we wanted to chat with Josie this week, as we're focusing on discussing sort of do rock supergroups work and trying to get an idea of the dynamic of that. Because I know when we were speaking off air, Josie, you were kind of saying that for you guys anyway, you don't see it as anything different than kind of four people coming together and just wanting to start afresh and have that same project no different than any other band.
Yeah, 100%. Like, we just see, you know, we had the privilege, I suppose, of getting to try before we buy, as in last year, where the Amorettes found themselves without a rhythm section and Tequila found ourselves without a front person. The timing could not have been better, in that we both bands had a year's worth of gigs booked, and without the personnel, I suppose, to fulfill said gigs. So it couldn't have kind of worked out better for us, in that we all got to play all those gigs that we had booked for our own bands, and then also jump in and help out with the other respective bands. And the great thing is that you get to kind of just get to know people along the way. You know, I'm sure you know what it's like, Aaron. Like, you don't truly know somebody until you haven't eaten for 4 days and you haven't slept for a week. Like, that's when you really get to know somebody. And I suppose we had several kind of fairly hectic schedules last year, because obviously, you know, the band having double the load of gigs, there were some fairly nail-biting journeys, you know, trying to get from A to B in the nick of time to not let anyone down. And it was amazing. Like, we had a really, really good time. It was obviously hard work for everybody, because, you know, none of us had learned anyone else's music for ever, or for a long time. We'd been used to playing the same songs, you know, parts you've written, and a complete muscle memory and fun to play. You go from that to having to learn someone else's style. You know, you wanted to kind of stay true to what was committed to CD. You know, it wasn't really the time or place to start adding your own spin on songs or whatever. So kind of learning a different style, and I guess being thrown in the deep end. You know, your first gig in front of thousands of people for a 2-hour set, for example. So it was an amazing experience, because it was a fairly high pressure situation, I suppose. And if you can get along with people in a high pressure situation, then that's a really good sign. So we all had a lovely time, survived the year, did exactly what we set out to do. And then I suppose the end of the year came, and we had a decision to make, which is, are we all going to pack up our gear and sell it all on eBay and go and get ourselves nice, respectable jobs working in a bank or something? Are we going to keep one of the bands going, or are we going to take the plunge and launch something brand new? And throughout the year, we honestly didn't know what we were going to do. You know, people kept on asking us, and they thought there was some hidden secret answer that we just weren't telling them. And it was honestly, we didn't know ourselves. You don't know until you feel it. And we had to kind of spend the year seeing how we felt about things. And I think by the very end of the year, it was quite clear that we all kind of were equally invested in what we were doing, and we thought the right a natural thing to do would be to launch something that was everybody's band, because you know, otherwise you're kind of, I don't know, like even the music like we want to make now it's not like what Tequila made, it's not like what the Amorettes made, so it felt like kind of cheating if we were to carry on one of those names. You know, we thought, let's just launch something of its own accord with its own legs. I mean, hopefully some people will come along for the ride, and actually so far it's been amazing. Like, you know, we have launched the band and the support's been amazing. We have sold more tie-dye t-shirts than
How are your tie-dye nightmares?
Oh, I don't know if we should talk about that. So yeah, we launched a t-shirt because a few people have said, you know, they wanted to kind of support the band, and you know, we're very, very grateful that anybody would possibly want to buy a t-shirt of a band they've never even heard. It's very, very, you know, generous of them. And we launched a couple of t-shirts, just a plain standard black option like you do. And we wanted to have a bit more of a colourful option, especially in 2020, where we need all the brightness, let's face it, that we can possibly get. Couldn't decide on a colour, so as a joke, we mocked up a tie-dye t-shirt, the most garish tie-dye t-shirt I could find on the internet. Sent it through to the girls and was like, here we go, here's our colour t-shirt. And they're like, that's sick, yes. Chucked it on the store, expecting maybe one or two people who were just feeling a little bit wild, maybe had a few too many sherries to maybe indulge in one of the crazy unicorn vomit t-shirts. And turns out the tie-dyes outsold black 8-1.
Wow.
So, I think it's a sick idea. I mean, we like a bit of 60s. I mean, I like the psychedelic vomit vibe. I think it's the way to go.
It was a great idea at the time, until I realised how long tie-dyeing 75 t-shirts was going to take. Because I spent a day tie-dyeing stuff with my 3-year-old nephew a few weeks ago when I was babysitting him, and we did loads of stuff, and I was like, oh yeah, do a few t-shirts, won't take long. And I assumed, just because I had my 3-year-old nephew, that I was being really slow and that it's not normally that slow a process. I was like, once I've got Laurie, it'll be much quicker. And then Laurie came over, and I think we managed to get 4 done in a day. And we've improved now to maybe average 6 or 7 in a day.
Wow, that's impressive.
Yeah, but you still, you know, you times that by 75 t-shirts, that's quite a lot of manpower. So there's that, and there's also the fact that we're now in tier 4 lockdown. So obviously I can't have my little helper over anymore, and Hobbycraft isn't open. So it's just slowed down slightly because I'm waiting for an Amazon delivery now, because that's literally the only way I can get hold of the dye we need. So, I mean, it's a great problem to have. We're super, super appreciative that 75 people wanted to buy a t-shirt of a band not only they've never heard the music, they've got no idea what t-shirt they're getting, because some of them, I'll say it myself, we nailed some of them not so much. So it's a bit of a lucky dip. Some of them we're more proud of than others, and unfortunately, like, you know, we did order some spares, but we've sold all the spares now as well, because otherwise I probably would have been tempted to put a few of them in the bin and start again. But yeah, now everything's closed for Christmas, and we're in tier 4 lockdown. So instead of having the family over for turkey, I shall be tie-dyeing some more t-shirts on Christmas Day. I suspect. Why not? I mean, it's 2020, anything goes, and I didn't expect this to be the way the year ended, but I don't think anyone expected this year to be like this. So if tie-dyeing is the new thing, then so be it. Worst ways to spend your life, right?
That's it.
Yeah. So, let's go right back to the beginning.
Yeah.
Of kind of everything. What first attracted you to drums in the first place?
Honestly, I think it was having 3 brothers who were really noisy and took over the house. So I think it was a slight streak of vengeance, to be honest. I thought I would take over the house and make more noise than them, which I did. they never touched them. They weren't interested in them at all. They were just annoyed because they used to play cricket in the living room, and now I stuck a big fat drum kit in the middle instead, which got in their way. But no, I always loved music, and I always saw drums and thought they looked really fun to play. And then I think I just managed to persuade my mum to lend me £300 when I was 16 or 15 to buy a drum kit, and she very kindly obliged, and just started playing them and played them every day, and managed to join a band, played our first gig 3 months later. And most people give up when they leave school or go to uni or whatever. Everyone plays an instrument when they're a teenager, but then kind of one by one they drop off, and then some of us just never grow up. And I guess I'm one of those, still at it.
What was your first band, Joe? What was it? Was it covers like straight away at sort of 16?
It was covers, yeah. We were called Milk Crate. Great band name. We had a Milk Crate with an 8. Our logo was an upside down cow, which I think was off clip art. And we had very diverse musical influences, and as you do at 16, rather than have a conversation and be like, well, look, it's probably not going to work if we cover Coldplay and Rage Against the Machine in the same set, we just decided, no, everyone gets to pick 2 songs in the set. So we covered Alkaline Trio, Blink-182, Rage Against the Machine, Manic Street Preachers, Stereophonics, Feeder, Coldplay, and then everything in between. And then we had gradually we started writing our own stuff as well. So it was proper mixed bag, and we were never very respected because most of the bands were writing their own stuff. But we were always like, well, we'll play our own stuff when we've got songs that we think are as good as these other ones we're playing, but no one wants to hear a crap song if you can hear a good song. So we kind of did a mixture, and until we had songs that we thought were going to stand up against a good band, we kind of just kept to covers. And it was a really good way to learn your instrument, to be honest, because if you're writing your own parts, you tend to play it safe and just play what you know, and it can get very samey. So if you are covering, like I said, Coldplay and Rage Against the Machine, you kind of get exposed to a quite wide variety of styles and pick up a little thing from here and there, and then at least you've got a bit more of a toolkit to play with. Well,
you're learning how to gig as well, aren't you, at that point? So because it's a different way you've done it, really, Jace, because most people, like, obviously for myself, I kind of was playing in sort of covers gigs and stuff, and when I was probably about 12 or 13, and when I was about 16, it was more kind of original material, and that whereas you've kind of gone straight in sort of at 16, and you're playing covers, and you're also learning how to gig as well. So I bet that was quite an assault in terms of the learning process to have that all at once, but it's the best way to learn that, isn't it?
Well, I think when you're 16, you don't care as much. I don't know, like now, I think if I'd never done it before and I was getting on stage in front of a load of people, I'd probably be cacking myself. But when you're 16, like the first gig we played was like the school battle of the bands, to a couple of hundred people, but they were all your mates and they were all there for a good time. And so, although it was kind of a baptism of fire, and thank God cameras weren't really a thing back then, like there's no video footage or anything, because I could only imagine it was horrendous, because it was literally 3 months after I picked up my first drumstick. So
well, we've actually got it here now. Transition that in.
I would love to see it, just to see if it's as bad as I remember, but I'm pretty sure it is.
Were you born in Australia, Josie?
No, I was English. I am English. I just ran away to Australia after uni on a gap year and ended up staying there for 10 years. Wow. So no, this was in sunny Lincolnshire. There was nothing else to do, so everyone learned an instrument.
Right, basically. Okay. So obviously, so then you went over to, like you say, you did the gap year and kind of, did you say you had about 10 years?
Yeah.
Great. So at which point when did the transition come into you becoming part of the UK rock scene? Did you always have them links with what was happening over in the UK? Well,
not really. Like when I went, I played in that covers band, then I went to uni and the drumming kind of took a bit of a backseat while I was at uni, because the scene wasn't great. And then I actually my plan originally when going to Australia was to make a party band, because you could get quite good. I was good, you know, I wanted to do it for a living, and I was like, okay, well, you can make quite a lot of money playing in a covers band, doing all the backpacker venues and all of that. So my plan was to make a party band over here of 4 like-minded people who wanted to go and do a gap year in Australia and fund it by gigging a couple of times a week, playing, you know, covers or whatever at backpacker venues. So I tried to put a band together, but only one person eventually went through with it, a guitar player who wanted to do it. And we were going to find the other members out there. And then a couple of friends decided to come along for the ride as well. So we all got a house in Melbourne, and I joined a covers band in Melbourne in the end, and we played like the Melbourne kind of pub scene. And through that, I actually met Jess and Estelle. They were potentially going to be forming a band with the singer and the cover band, and then needed a drummer and asked me along. And through that, basically met Jess and Estelle, and then we decided to start an originals band. And that was the original version of Tequila Mockingbird. We were called Mannequin Alley for the first year. So we played all over Melbourne as Mannequin Alley. Then we had a year off, which was a funny story. Jess left the band because, and I'm sure she wouldn't mind me saying this because we're all sweet now and everything, but she didn't think Estelle and I were committed enough, because at that time I wasn't.
You should have been more committed, Josie.
I wasn't.
Back, you should have been.
But this was the mentality I had at the time, was that my friend was coming to stay, so I was like, I can't do any gigs for the whole of April because my friend's coming to stay, and I don't want to do any gigs when she's here. And then Estelle had a few family birthdays, and she's like, well, I don't want to do any gigs for the whole of May because I've got some family birthdays, I won't have time. And Jess was at music college, and she's like, so you're telling me 2 months are taken out of our calendar because you've got your mate over and you've got some family birthdays, and we're going to have to put the band on hold for 2 months? And we were like, yeah, this is just a bit of fun on the side kind of thing. She's like, well, I'm here to do this seriously. So she went off and, you know, tried to do it seriously. And then a year went by, and Estelle and I were still jamming together, looking for a bass player. We kind of tried a few bass players, but it just wasn't gelling and it just wasn't clicking. And, you know, we kind of, I think we'd all taken it all for granted, to be honest, how good we had it in terms of we got on really, really well. We really liked the music we created together. We all kind of came from slightly different places musically, but what we made together, we all really liked. And yeah, we all kind of had each other's backs and really respected each other as humans. So we ended up going out for dinner with Jess and being like, because she'd been kind of doing the same thing, looking for people to replace us with, and she hadn't found anyone, and we hadn't found anyone to replace her. So we were just like, what the hell are we doing? Why don't we just talk to each other again and sort this out? So we went out for dinner and had a chat and was just like, you still want this, we still want this. We know we get on, we know we write well together. Let's give it another shot. So that's when we decided, we never really liked the name Mannequin Alley, so we thought we'll rename and go again. And that's when we launched Tequila Mockingbird and kind of picked up where we left off. And just kind of were writing, did a bit of recording, and then started gigging, and the reaction was good, and kind of got more involved in the Melbourne music scene, and through that the Sydney and Brisbane and Perth and Adelaide scenes, and ended up kind of going all over Australia with it. And then got a random phone call one day from some man some man claiming to be from the Australian Army, inviting us over to the Middle East to play for the troops. I'm like, who is this? You're winding me up. Like, I literally thought it could have been any of my friends just playing a practical joke, but it genuinely was.
So where were you at in terms of like tequila's history at this point? Like when you got the call from the Australian Army, as you do?
We'd been going in Australia for probably 3 years at that point. So we'd kind of started to make a little bit of noise over there. You know, we'd done a few tours around the country, getting a little bit of love from like the rock station over there, Triple M, and, you know, starting to be able to pull a bit of a crowd in Melbourne. And that's when someone had kind of given this head of Forces Entertainment a bit of a tip off that there was a band going around that might be good for a Troops gig, and that's when he gave us a buzz. And yeah, so we I don't think we'd released the album yet. I think we'd recorded the album and we were making lots of noise about how we had an album coming. We'd released an EP but not the album, and then got that call and obviously obliged, and that was a very interesting experience, kind of something I never thought I'd do in my lifetime. And one of the amazing things you get to do as a band, get to kind of go places that you never thought you'd go otherwise, and see things and do things. And we managed somehow to persuade them, because you're not really meant to have cameras or video cameras on these army bases, because it's all very, very sensitive. But we managed to sweet talk them into letting us film the I Smile Rock and Roll video while we were over there, which was very kind of them to accommodate, on the explosives testing range. So that was pretty cool.
It was pretty badass, eh?
Yeah, like that is as badass as it gets, really. And then literally Jess let off a bomb in the middle of the video.
Wow.
Yeah, they let her press the button and explode a boot, which was pretty cool. And then we kind of went back to Melbourne, and it was all good fun. But the Australian scene is quite different from the UK scene in that it's a lot smaller. There's a lot more kind of hobbyism, and a lot fewer people doing it actually as a full-time profession. And it's very much focused on established bands that have made it. Whereas in the UK, there's a massive appetite for new bands. People will book a ticket to Rockstock or Steelhouse, and they will check out the bands on the second stage or on the first, early on in the day, because they're like, they know that they might just discover their new favourite band. Whereas in Oz, I don't know why, but they have festivals, but they tend to be kind of the same 5 bands touring, playing these tea in the park style things in a different order every year. There's not even the early slot. The early slot goes to a band who made it in the 90s who are trying to do a comeback. It doesn't go to a band that's brand new on the scene. So we kind of felt like we were hitting our heads against a brick wall. Along with there's another Australian band called Massive, who we were really good friends with, obviously doing the scene over there. And they were in exactly the same predicament as us to an extent. I mean, they'd already had support from Earache. They'd been signed to Earache Records over here. So they'd already done some tours over here. But in terms of the Australian scene, we were kind of all at the stage where we could fill a pub. But how on earth you go from pub level to club level? You have to go overseas and break overseas before Australia really takes you seriously. And we decided to release I Smell Rock and Roll over here and just see what happened. Thought we got nothing to lose at all. So we did, and straight away Planet Rock picked it up. And we were getting daytime airplay. And Classic Rock magazine loved it and stuff like that. So we were and then we got offered a tour over here as well. And so we were going to come over for the tour, and then I think Jess just one day said, why don't we just book one-way tickets and see what happens? So we did. We booked one-way tickets and came over. Massive came over as well, because as I said, they were kind of in the same situation. All of us booked one-way tickets. We had about 2 months of shows booked, and we kind of didn't know what was going to happen after that. And in those 2 months, I mean, we couldn't really have asked for more. We got record label with Off Your Rocker. We got amazing press through Duff Press. Planet Rock loved it. We got a booking agent, management through with Terry, and really we couldn't have asked for more, and things were kind of falling into place. But then sometimes life gets in the way, and various life circumstances meant that living in England wasn't going to be viable for people long term, and unfortunately the girls had to go back to Australia for various reasons, and I had to stay here because there was my dad was really ill and stuff, so I was stuck here for a while, and we kind of went back and forth for a while. Like we did some shows in Australia, and then came back over here. And Estelle and Jess gave me their blessing to carry on and find new members if I could, which I did. And we did some amazing shows as the new lineup. But that kind of ran its course, and that was kind of when it got to Jill getting in touch one day randomly because she saw that Jacinta and I were advertising for a new singer, and she's like, "Well, you're looking for a singer. My bass player and drummer have just quit, but don't tell anyone," kind of thing. And that's when we got talking. We started comparing our gig listings, and by some miracle of fate, we had no clashes at all. So we're like, do you know what we could do? Put your listings and my listings together, mesh them together. That the same lot of people could do those in theory next year. And that's what we decided to do. We didn't, like I said, we didn't know at the time whether it was going to be a long-term thing or whether it was just going to be we don't want to let people down. And also, you work really, really hard to get those gigs, and they were good gigs. There was, the Amorettes had a tour supporting TerraVision, playing some amazing venues. Was it Manchester? I can't remember what it was, the Apollo or somewhere. I
can remember at the time, Josie, seeing pictures, and the venues were packed, weren't they?
Yeah,
I remember you did Rock City, didn't you?
Yeah, sold out. Like they were all sold out because TerraVision obviously have got an amazing fan base, and it was all great stuff. And there was a show supporting Airborne in Switzerland with the Amorettes.
Yeah, another killer show.
Yeah, Tequila had one at Kentish Town Forum with the Choir Boys.
Cool.
And so, you don't spend 5 years in a band getting to the level that you kind of get those shows to then give them up if you can at all avoid it. And so, it worked out amazingly in that we got to play those shows, and then, without the pressure of, and also, like I said, try being in a band together without the pressure of, we're now a band, we have to make this work. It was like, we need to make this year work. That's all we needed to make work. And then at the end of the year, we had kind of the decision to make as to what we did next.
What did you do in terms of material, Josie? Just for anyone who didn't catch you on that tour, when you was the Amorettes, did you keep it to just the Amorettes material, and the same with Tequila, or did you kind of switch it up?
When we played as the Amorettes, we kept it to the Amorettes. When we played as Tequila, we played 90% Tequila, but we'd chuck in one or two Amorette songs.
Yeah. Just
because Jill was fronting the band, and Jill's been around a while in the UK, and lots of people have seen her, and she's absolutely bossing. And it seemed a shame not to kind of, people wanted to see her do Everything I Learned from Rock and Roll, or Let the Neighbours Call the Cops, and so we were like, yeah, we'll do that. So yeah, when we played as Tequila, we did do a couple of Amoret songs, and
yeah, it seems like a healthy balance.
Yeah, no, it was good, and it meant everyone kind of was comfortable with at least part of the set, because it's very different from playing, like I said, songs you've been playing for 7 years, and then you've had to learn someone else's stuff with a different style of playing and stuff. So no, it was, the response was great. We kept on getting more and more gig offers, and we just had to start at some point saying no, because we kind of signed up to help each other out, not to continue as both bands indefinitely, because also we all live geographically very far apart. Jill's up in Scotland, Laurie's in Essex, so playing as two bands and keeping two sets of material tight when you're that far apart is quite hard work. So we were like, we just want to get one product together, one thing that we all believe in, and just smash it with that. And so that was, at the end of the year, the decision kind of made itself, and then it became a case of what is this new thing? What does it sound like? What does it look like? Because it's been a long time since anyone started again,
Yeah, so what's it like kind of announcing a band in the middle of a pandemic with no gigs? And are there any plans for the future? kind of post-COVID?
Well, yeah, I mean, it was slightly strange timing to launch a band during the pandemic, but at the same time, we don't know how long it's going to go on for. And people are sat at home with not much to do at the moment. So we thought at least it's something. We've been trying to document as much of our journey as possible, like in terms of videos and stuff, so that people can see we are, although we haven't put out an album yet or haven't played any shows or whatever, they can see that stuff is happening, the wheels are turning, and that we are kind of getting things good to go. But yeah, I mean, we didn't know how long it was going to go on for. And there's also the fact that realistically, a lot of gigs book at least a year in advance. So we knew that probably, the whole of 2020 is a write-off. We don't know how much of next year's a write-off yet. Nobody does really. We're hopeful that by mid-year next year, stuff will be happening. But we are also very realistic that we probably won't be playing many shows, because 99% of next year's shows are just going to be this year's shows that have been picked up and plonked into next year. So with that in mind, we just wanted people to know that we are a band and we do exist, because if we'd waited till next year to announce, we'd be waiting then till 2022 to play gigs, kind of thing. Whereas at least if people know we exist now, if any little slots come up next year, or bands end up getting clashes because 2 of their gigs get rescheduled to the same day, at least people now know we exist, and we've got a chance of maybe playing a few shows, rather than having to wait another 2 years, kind of thing.
And the response so far has been amazing, hasn't it? It's been badass.
Incredible, to be honest, because we wanted initially to launch with music, because launch a new band with a single would seem like the logical thing to do, but because of COVID and Scotland's in different tiers and all of us in different tiers and all of that, getting the music like recorded and a video done ready for release has been a lot more difficult than we've anticipated. So that's kind of where the videos have come in that we've kind of at least kept people on board with what we're doing, and been completely honest with everybody in terms of where we're at with everything. And we are all of us absolutely blown away with how supportive people have been for a band that kind of doesn't exist yet, as far as the world knows. We're basically content creators.
It's a testament to obviously the stamp that the 4 of you have put on the scene already.
Or how bored people are in 2020.
Yeah, don't put yourself down, Joe. I'm trying to big you up there a little bit. I mean, this is all seriousness though, but obviously the projects you've been in before have pushed people and people have connected with it, and obviously you guys bring that all together. It's just brought more connections, I mean, in terms of for people who have got to know you in Tequila or with the Amorettes, I mean, what is the musical sort of direction with the Hot Damn, the vibe?
Well, it's kind of interesting, and I don't know whether this is just because we all kind of wanted a bit of a change, or whether 2020 has driven us around the bend, or what it was. But at the moment, the music sounds like the t-shirts. Like, it's not trippy psychedelic rock. It's more just really kind of happy, kind of bright, and at the moment it's sounding the closest, I would say, if you wanted a reference or a band to compare it to, would be Blondie.
That's really cool. Yeah, I really dig that, because there's nothing in the scene that's probably got them sort of nuances at the minute, and I feel like that scene's ready for something like that, a little bit of a vintage sort of 80s thing. Yeah, so I'm looking forward to hearing it. I think that'd be badass.
Yeah, I think we just want to make music that's fun for people to listen to and fun for us to play. And none of us are very serious people, and to be honest, none of us are. Well, I mean, we've kind of all done the kind of AC/DC Motorhead thing, and yeah, we're ready to do something a little bit different. It's not like we are still who we are. It's still gonna sound like us, but you've got to believe in what you're doing. You've got to be passionate about what you're doing. And these songs have kind of just come together in this form, and we all love it. And it doesn't sound like the Amorettes, it doesn't sound like Tequila, but it still sounds like Joel Montgomery. It still sounds like Laurie on guitar. I haven't changed my spots anytime recently. And then Lizzie, phenomenal bass player, really gritty bass tone. It doesn't sound like a bass, it sounds like an engine, like a steam train. So that kind of really makes it, pack a punch. So it's kind of poppy, rocky with a punch. So you'll know it's hit you.
Sounds cool. It sounds like what 2021 needs.
I think so.
A bit of positivity.
Well, I think the fact that, like I said, we've outsold black in terms of t-shirts. Like, what being in a band is like. You always get a black t-shirt because that's what sells.
So even though I have to convince Dan of it nearly every time, but
you got to have a black option, because 9 times out of 10 that is what people want. And you might get a colour option, and you'll get the odd kind of niche alternative purchaser, but the fact that the ratio was so skewed towards the tie-dye says to me people are just sick of life right now, and they're ready.
They've lost their heads.
They're like, yeah, do you know what? They're either like,
don't
do you
give
know
a
what?
shit anymore.
Yeah, fuck this, and they're just gonna go out with their crazy t-shirts and not care, or they know they're not leaving their house, so they're like, I'll wear this nice t-shirt if I want to wear this t-shirt. No one can judge me. And we're hoping that, like, the first gig we play, like, if a few people show up, they wear those t-shirts, so we can actually see them. Like, you're gonna know who's there and who's bought your merch.
Yeah.
Whereas normally at a gig, everyone's in black. Exactly. So it's something a bit different. And like I said, you've got to I think it's very true what they say, change is as good as a rest. And I think we were all ready for a little bit of a change to how things are and a fresh start. And like I said, it's been amazing so far, and we have finally played our first show the other day. So we're doing an online show. We had to pre-record it because of all the uncertainty with lockdowns and stuff like that. What we didn't want to do is advertise a show and then the day before Scotland's banned travel like it has now, or one of us gets a text message saying we need to isolate or something. So we pre-recorded it the other day, and it's cool to finally actually feel like a band that's actually played a show. Obviously no one's seen it yet, but we're all really happy with how it came out. And there's a few Amoret songs in there, a few Tequila songs, a few covers, and maybe some new stuff. So it's it's cool. And that will be the ultimate test. At least then I'll feel less like a fraud. If people have bought a t-shirt and then they watch the show and they're like, not so much, then at least hopefully they've got a pretty cool t-shirt out of it. Whereas I feel like we can't really keep on flogging this whole we're a band, but all we do is make puddings and tie-dye t-shirts, which is the sum of our creative output today is chocolate orange puddings and tie-dye t-shirts.
It makes the most of your skills though, doesn't it?
Well, these weren't my skill. Well, puddings, of course, but tie-dye is not something I would list on my CV. I think I made a tie-dye t-shirt in textiles when I was about 12, and then I did some tie-dyeing as an entertainment for my 3-year-old nephew about a month ago. That was the extent of my experience. But it's lockdown, there's not much else to do right now, so why not? Why not?
Yeah, finally, this is kind of a question that I like to ask everybody at the end. If you could tour with any band, one from the past and one from the present, who would they be?
Ryan's just going to put the countdown clock on.
Yeah, just got the countdown theme.
From the past, I don't know. These bands are both kind of still going, but kind of not in the same form. Can I have two from the past?
Go on. I'll let
Well,
you
you
do
don't
it.
know.
Yeah,
Come
you
on,
can't.
you can do it.
Grace.
I'd say Queen and Fleetwood Mac.
Okay.
Solid.
On the same bill.
Yeah, how would that be? They can co-headline and we'll just warm the boards.
Fabulous.
And
What era of Queen you having?
Mm.
Because
God.
it has to be pre-1980, otherwise it's a write-off.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I thought Live Aid, he was kind of on form then.
Oh, it's magic, but it's not. It's not like. I mean, it's not. I don't want to. It's up to you. It's your decision.
I don't mind whenever they were getting on with each other, when they were having a nice time together and they all wanted to be there and no one was ill or whatever and struggling, when they were having the time of their lives, whatever era that was. I'm not so good with my dates. When was that?
I think that was like 77.
Yeah, probably mid-70s when they brought out Night of the Opera with Bohemian Rhapsody.
Yes.
And they were all on the level at that point.
Yeah.
But to be fair, like you said, Live Aid was kind of like that coming together where they kind of all got back to that pinnacle and showed what they could really do. So overall, if you probably put my argument to death, because it shows that in either era of any band you can still reach that point.
Yeah.
But you got Queen and Fleetwood Mac. Who's your present one?
Present? Do you know what? Massively controversial. I'd say the 1975.
Wow. That's a different one.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think they are a phenomenal band. Amazing songs, amazing back catalogue, amazing live show. And in a world where not much modern music involves actual instruments, they're still doing it. They are the rock stars of today. People wouldn't consider it rock music, but they are the people playing guitars and drums, making a living out of what they're doing in this day and age, and have made it in the past 10 years. I don't know any like really hard rock bands who've done that. So I don't know. For me, it's all about the song, and I think they write amazing songs, very listenable. And I know people will probably not like this answer, but it's the honest answer. I think
you've got to go with what you feel is the right answer.
I mean, me and Ryan discussed it quite a lot on the podcast. I think it is difficult for new up and coming bands because there's that top tier of bands, particularly in the rock scene, that just won't seem to shove out of the way. And it means that there's that lack of a passageway for up and coming bands, into
100%.
and it feels like in that sort of alternative pop thing where the 1975 are hitting, there's maybe a bit more room for bands to be able to truly find their feet,
Well, I feel like, a lot of the bigger rock festivals, you look at the lineup now and it's the same, the top half of the lineup is the same lineup as 20 years ago or 10 years ago.
You can predict it, can't you, nearly every year, similar to what you're saying with Australia.
It's a bit like that, yeah. So, and the thing about that is it's kind of the same fans in a way. It's just the fan base is growing up or growing older. You obviously get a few newer ones in, but it's not the same because they weren't there for when it was all exciting and new and the buzz was happening. Guns N' Roses will always be an amazing band and they'll always have amazing songs, but I feel like if you were on that train in the 90s, it's a bit of a different experience to if you discover them today as a 14-year-old versus if you were 14 in the 90s. And I feel like there's something special about growing up with a band. Like, you're growing up as they make it and you are into their music as it comes out and you're waiting for the next album to come out and just loving it. And I feel like I don't know if there's that many rock bands at the moment that are kind of at that really exciting stage of blowing up. Really, like.
I agree. I mean, me and Ryan talk because we're both similar age, and when obviously like in the mid 2000s, I had that sort of thing with Blackstone Cherry, and I felt like what you was talking about, it was completely my own. I wasn't jumping on it because my dad listened to it. And it's, you know, it was completely my own journey. And like you say, you'd look forward to albums coming out, and I was able to see that rise, and sadly kind of now see them kind of toppling down the tree a little bit, you know. And I agree. I think it's difficult to see where that's going to happen in the current regime. You know, I think we talk a lot about bands becoming parodies, you know, particularly DC and Guns N' Roses in some way. And I think that ruins the legacy and the dream a little bit, you know, as a 14-year-old when you first listen to Appetite, you know. So hopefully in the next 10 years there'll be that change and things will open up, you know. But we'll have to see how it all plays out. But interesting choice, you know. You're the first one to pick something a little bit out there.
First one outside of rival songs.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This one's Josie.
I don't mind. Yeah, I think I do like them, but I don't know. To me, I just like bands that are doing things that no one's. I don't know. I don't know. I just feel like I've seen it before a bit. Like great songs, amazing musicians. But I don't know. I just like music a little bit more upbeat and a little bit more lighthearted generally these days anyway, especially in 2020. I don't want to hear about anything remotely miserable, or if you are going to be miserable, at least make it sound like a real happy pop song. Sing about heroin, but sing about it in a real boppy way, please.
That's the Josie O'Toole songbook for 2021.
That's the tagline.
That's the tagline right there. We'll start introducing that into primary schools and nurseries. If you're going to sing about heroin, just get it like a nursery vibe thing. I think that'll be sound. Thanks ever so much for playing with us, Josie. It's an absolute pleasure getting to know all the beginnings. And for anyone who's listening who hasn't already checked out the Hot Damn, make sure you follow them on all the social medias, because I'm sure hopefully when things start to open up from a gigging perspective, you know, we'll start to see some cool things from you guys. And definitely check out, when's the live stream coming out?
That's out on the 2nd of January at I think 8 p.m.
Okay, we'll have to definitely check that out then. Yeah, so anyone who's listening, make sure you check that out on the 2nd of Jan.
Amazing. Well, we'll do some show. We have to hook up some shows, Aaron, next year.
Yeah, it's inevitable, isn't it? Let's be honest. There's not a chance. Look forward to you absolutely smashing us off the stage.
Please.
There's going to be some grueling turf wars there, you know.
I think you have to scrape Dan off the floor when he sees my new drum kit.
Yeah.
Thank God. I'll prepare his marriage.
He thinks his is pretty. Wait till he sees mine. It looks like a watermelon.
Wow.
I think I've seen a picture of it. You've been teasing it. Yeah, it does look pretty nice. Yeah.
It's not actually mine yet. I've got to. I'm borrowing it at the moment, but I've got to make it mine because it's just. It looks edible. It literally looks like a cake. I need it. Yeah.
Smashing. Anyway. Right, lovely. Pleasure to chat to you, Jose.
Thank you, boys. Always a pleasure. All right, you keep up your
stay safe.
Rocking and stuff.
So that was Josie O'Toole reflecting on sort of her career and how she integrated, because I think she's a big figure in terms of the UK rock scene and the new wave of classic rock because of her time with Tequila Mockingbird, and obviously she's now moved into the more management side of things. For those that don't know, Josie is the manager for me and the boys band, and I got nothing but wonderful things to say about her. We take the piss because we've got that relationship, but she's, I think because she's made that choice to just do nothing but music. She's really been in the trenches, and she's got what she deserves in terms of the shows and the experiences she's been able to have with Tequila, and obviously with that conjunction with the Amorettes, and I feel really positive about the Hot Damn. I mean, we spoke about it off air a little bit. I'm looking forward to seeing them have that platform to be able to express themselves a little bit.
Yeah, I think, they, as she said, like, it's going to be something that's more theirs now. They're starting afresh, they're starting new, and it's going to be a bit interesting. It was interesting how she was saying that she wanted the songs to be upbeat and kind of happy. you know, you don't usually hear that, do you? You hear kind of like, oh, we're going to make it dark and moody and cool.
Artwell's never wrote an upbeat, happy song.
That's what I'm saying. Like, Artwell, I don't think he understands upbeat.
Don't disrespect Artwell. I'll say you the shadow of death here. Don't worry about it.
You know, he comes along like he's just buried somebody. But, you know, it's, yeah, you know, I think it's a different thing, isn't it? And it'll be interesting to see what they come up with.
No, we're all very excited. And as we say, please follow the Hot Damn, follow their story, and hopefully when we're able to go and see them at a show, you know, and hopefully we can, you know, we can all meet up and get on that happy vibe that they want to give us all. Thank you ever so much for listening. This has been a wonderfully organic version of Beyond the Vibe by Candlelight. We'll see you all next week with another special guest. Thanks.
Yeah, see you next week.
Have a good Christmas.
Yes.